And a number of the papers are here, and so we'll get into them right now for you here on the show. Helen is here, as always, with me. Quite a number of them this morning already.
Yes, that's right.
So we'll get into them straight ahead.
All right, let's talk about what's going on the economic front. The BNFT is here. It's the Business and Financial Times. Lease revocation. Adamus deprives economy of some 205 million Ghana cedis in taxes and royalties. Ministerial Review Committee reveals. GRA pushes data-driven tax administration to boost revenue mobilization. Revamp SDI supervision. Dr. Ituahene as IMF flags insolvency. And SEC touts ESG transparency as key to attracting investment. All right. The back page of the BNFT this morning. Rights come with responsibilities. Government tells miners. Let's get on to another paper right about now. The custodian is here. They say they're fearless, fair, and reliable. Gold Board can't claim benefits and disown losses, Osahin insists as minority demands probe into 22 billion gold trading losses. And the story still continues. The saga unfolds, as we like to say. Adamus owes over 205 million Ghana cedis statutory arrears, repatriates 224 million US dollars, and that's in a committee report. Also pictured here along with that story is Honorable Emmanuel Amakufibua, Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Asansiman Koka stops NPP aspirants from incoming MP mantra. The news center this morning, 205 million Ghana cedi arrears, gaps in gold figures, among other breaches caused revocation of Adamus license. Saglemi City rises again. The president is pictured here. LMI Homes targets 700 homes by March 2027. Are we finally going to see Saglemi City rise? We're told to look to 2027.
Yesterday, and forgive me if I have absolutely very little faith in the Saglemi is more than 10 years as a project which was started, which should have come in to help. At least a few persons would have been living there and will be coming from there. When the Akufo-Addo administration also came through, they started their own housing project around Pokwase. Where is it at? You know,
all these abandoned projects because
trust me,
we don't really live this ideology that governance is a continuum.
Look, we are so poor. Yesterday was a message, it was a quote I saw yesterday on Twitter. We are so poor yet so wasteful.
That's right.
Look, the number of projects, E-blocks, President Mahama's own E-blocks, have they all been completed? The president has been in office for more than 18 months now. What's happening to those E-blocks as well? Because that was a project started under his administration. I see Fourth Estate went to do something on is it a Western Regional Hospital or something. Completely abandoned. And then you ask yourself, we are going round in circles, wanting to do A, wanting to do B. Someone will start it. When the other comes says, oh, I don't want to, it wasn't my plan, so I'm focused on doing this.
Because if I continue, you will take the credit.
See, it's not like when they say, I'm not going to finish yours, I will start they will finish theirs, they too, they will not finish. Then the meager resources, because when you take all of the taxes and revenue we generate, it doesn't reach anywhere. So we have to borrow and also be able to pay salaries before we think about what we'll put in capital investment or capital spending. So we will say we are using some to build roads, we are using some to build schools, we are using some to build hospitals. The revenue we collect, it's not enough for us. You go and borrow to come and you'll be receiving grants and you'll be doing all of that. And then when you start the project, you will not finish. I
so
cannot
poor
understand.
And yet so wasteful.
I cannot understand.
The Daily Gist this morning. Adamu's lease revocation exposes revenue loss of 205 million cedis. Soldiers defend Ampofo over smear campaign. Nana Akomia joins NPP first vice chairman race. Full story on page 2. We don't know 24-hour markets. Guzitano speaking there. Yesterday, I think the papers also captured this story and also the online platforms.
We were there as well, as a matter of fact. So that entire clip and the explanation he provided also readily available for all to go into our socials and then on YouTube as well to catch.
Minority turns heat on Sammy Jamfi. Gold Board cannot pocket fees and reject losses. Jakpa's unfit 30 ambulances handed to National Security for repair. Interesting how that story is captured. Let's turn our attention to the front page of the Ghanaian Times. 10 research into medicines and vaccines. Health Minister urges researchers. Seed Council seeks stronger seed certification traceability. SIC Insurance doubles dividend to some 20 million Ghana cedis. Targets return to number 1 position. GRA deepens use of data to drive revenue growth. The Inquisitor this morning, revocation of Adamu's lease. The rot is huge as Ghana loses millions. Smear campaign against Ampofo backfires as soldiers reject allegations against former CDS. Some ministers are leaking documents on CEOs to NPP. Henry Nanaboache of the NPP reveals.
Well, what's he saying? He says
some ministers are leaking documents on CEOs to the NPP.
As in ministers under this administration.
Yes, they are leaking documents
on their own CEOs to the NPP.
That's what he alleges here. He's also pictured on the front page smiling. I guess he's sitting on some potential intel. Construction ambassadors found out to be buried tomorrow. And finally, I've got the daily guide here. The front page has this to say: I'm not under any probe. General Ampofo retired. Engineers to shape Ghana's policy direction. That's coming from Dr. Bami. I believe a couple of days ago he had an engagement with a group of engineers. He says to seek some direction or some advice, some consultation on how to develop Ghana. Adamu's lease revocation. Ministerial committee findings tip of the iceberg. Give us 380 million cedis locked up funds. Mine workers speaking there. And Supreme Court rules on selective vacation sitting injunction today. That's how it's captured on the front page of the Daily Guide. Yes, that's it for the papers.
Those are all of the papers. Let me take us online quickly. 3news.com, 700 units of Sagleme housing project to be completed by March 2027. That's according to President Mahama. I'm sure it will be part of a number of the things we'll get into this morning. Top story on myjoinline.com, fact check. Did Gold Board make a loss in 2025? Here's what the record shows. Well, we can tell you confidently from here, and we've been doing that all throughout, that's misleading. It wasn't the case, and it's the same as has been captured there. Parliament must summon Gridco Energy Minister over recurring blackout. Adomaku Mensah saying this. Supreme Court to rule today on challenge to legal vacation warrant. Nilante Van der Poel apologizes to Sammy Jamfi over Gold Board comments. I was a bit confused as to that. Mahama targets 700 Sagleme housing units for completion by March 2027. Mahama cautions Ghanaians not to take religious freedom for granted, and Education Ministry condemns alleged sexual abuse of Bogis student. That's one on our plates this morning as well. City Newsroom, I didn't intend to condemn or undermine Sammy Jamfi. Van der Poel apologizes. He's seeking to become national chair of the NDC. He's been apologizing. Legal vacation. Supreme Court to rule on Upon Nkrumah's bid to halt trials today. Global Info Analytics. And
that's how the Daily Guide captured it this way. They say Supreme Court rules on selective vacation sitting injunction today.
They do politics with everything, huh? Global Info Analytics survey didn't target NPP delegates. Boache Jaco campaign team, they've been reacting because In the chairmanship race, the poll has put John Boedu ahead. Ahead of him. And in fairness, yes, it wasn't delegates, it was card-bearing members and supporters of the NPP purely. But not every card-bearing member is a delegate.
That's right.
Right? And of that number as well, even though it was 23% or was it 27% who said they would prefer John Boedu as national chairman, there was about 43% who said they didn't have an opinion at the time. And that's a huge number to say they don't have an opinion as to who decides. And so if that were to translate even to the delegate system, it still means that race is very much open to who becomes national chair. Also, Gridco withholding critical information on power outages. Energy analysts, TUSAC suspends strike after renewed talks with government. Every day some new union. TUSAC. Sponsor at least one legacy temple. Reverend Wengam tells church members. This one says the church should do it. And don't let religious tensions undermine Ghana's peaceful coexistence. Ghana Web, I never meant to condemn him. Van der Poel apologizes for TV remarks on Sami Jimfi. Also, watch as driver slaps police officer during disputes. Now, so be off. Slapping a uniformed officer.
Hey, this was a driver.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why do mosquitoes bite some people and ignore others? It's a feature on Ghana Web. Also, a prophet is warning Captain Smart not to waste his money over MP bid because he will not win. Academic who accused British Ghanaian professor of plagiarism suspended by university. What kick-started the hounding and resulted in possibly he taking his life. Is what. But let's get into the details. I think we have a fair few things in relation to abandoned projects water view. And so we'll start off with Saglemi.
Yeah. Let's do that. The news center captured it on the front page this way. Saglemi City rises again. We're told to look to March 2027, where some units will be completed. But let's get the full story here and find out if Saglemi City will in fact rise again. I know Mawuena doesn't have too much hope, but
no, I don't.
The revival of the long-delayed Saglemi affordable housing project, now christened Saglemi City, offers Ghana an important opportunity to turn one of its most troubled public housing investments into a functioning community. But while the renewed optimism surrounding the project is welcome, the real measure of success will not be another launch, inspection, or commissioning ceremony. Okay, so this one is an editorial, but what's actually happening on the ground, I believe, is captured in the center spread. Now, LMI Homes, a subsidiary of Quam LMI Holdings, has committed to completing the first 1,500 units of the long-delayed Saglemi affordable housing project, now christened Saglemi Housing, by the end of 2027. Okay, so we have, in fact, more than a year to look forward to Saglemi City rising, with 700 houses expected to be ready for occupation by March 2027. Fellow Ghanaians, keep that date in mind, with about 700 to be completed by March 2027. It's not that far away, but the full development, we're told, of some 1,500 units will be done December 2027 or towards the end of 2027. Now this, as the private developer moves to transform the abandoned development into a fully serviced residential community, the commitment has renewed attention on one of Ghana's most prominent but troubled housing projects, which originally was conceived as a 5,000 unit affordable housing estate, but stalled for years amid investigations, legal difficulties, and extensive vandalism that stripped the partially completed buildings of electrical cables, fittings, windows, and other installations. Because from what we gather, from what investigations tell us, there are persons who are illegally occupying these abandoned...
Some of the initial infrastructure in terms of, I think it reports that air conditions and some other things which may have been installed. Some persons had gone in and taken out some of the things, and so.
But those cables and other things, fittings, other installations, all gone.
Things. And that is an extra cost on the nation.
That's just the waste. We've gone to fit it in there. No security, no plan to complete. Of course, if you leave it abandoned, persons are desperate, for some place to lay their heads. Even Intel suggests there are allegations that people even collect rent. You can go there. There's a landlord. There's a landlord there.
That's what the...
There's a landlord there. Anyway, following a decision by the government to partner with the private sector to revive the project, LMI Holdings has assumed responsibility for both the financing and execution of the current phase, taking on the task of not only completing the housing structures, but also putting in place the roads, electricity, water, telecommunications, and other systems required to make Saglemi a functioning community. The scale of the assignment was underscored during an inspection of the project by President John Dramani Mahama, who said the revival represented an opportunity to rescue an important national housing asset from years of neglect and bring it into productive use. According to the project details, 1,506 housing units have been constructed on approximately 299.59 acres of land. Let's call it 300 acres of land. Although 118 of the units were at foundation level when the project was taken over. So there are some pictures to go along with it. If you get a hold of the New Center newspaper this morning and check out the center spread, you see pictures of the president, members of the of LMI Housing as well. So seeing that it's a private entity that is partnering with government on this, will we still have it as an affordable housing solution? Or how is that all going to take shape? Because I recall towards the end of the Akufo-Addo administration, there were talks of another private entity.
Okwasi.
This is taking over Saglemi as well.
Yes, to complete it.
Complete
it will be
it,
interesting to know if it's the same entity.
That's right.
It's the same company which is taking it over and will continue with the works in terms of being able to complete it. So yes, you're right.
Yes, there was that chatter as well, and I remember one of the key considerations for a lot of us was whether or not that would eliminate the idea of affordability, because a private entity will also seek to recoup their money spent or expended on this project. But there's something also that the president said in connection with this Saglemi city. He says. It says President Mahama also connected the Saglemi project to government's broader objective of expanding home ownership and reducing the pressure on Ghanaian households caused by high rent advances. He said financial institutions had developed mortgage products to support prospective homeowners. The Home Ownership Fund, he said, was prepared to offer 8% interest rates on mortgages, while Ecobank Ghana LMI Homes mortgage partner is providing 10% interest rates on the purchases of Saglemi city houses. But what is going to be the cost for us to know what a 10% mortgage or 10% interest rate on that lending is going to be? It's different if it's government that is, I suppose, spearheading, as opposed to a private entity. Is it still affordable housing? Because that was the initial foundation of this project, and hopefully we don't lose sight of that. We have enough apartments that none of us can afford. Just look around you. So many springing up with exorbitant prices. We can't afford it. What we're really looking for is affordable, not affordable to some, or real affordability. The one that Helen, Appiah, I can afford, because if I tell you what my pocket can do, I'm seeing the way they are suited and booted. I'm not sure.
Look, I think the truth is, it's not going to be affordable.
You don't foresee affordability?
No. Let's stop
See, even this one tells me, it says fiber connectivity.
Let's stop hoping. It's not going to be
high-speed internet connectivity.
I think one of the questions we should ask is, what will affordable be? Right? I think we often hear the mention of affordable housing. That definition, that nomenclature ought to be defined.
And affordable to whom? Because what is affordable to X might not be affordable to Y.
Exactly. What is affordable housing? When our governments say they want to, or they are engaged in affordable housing, what do they mean? Who can afford it? Look at the Ghanaian worker. Is it targeting government workers? Because government workers are a completely different set to private workers.
That's right.
Right? When you're in the government sector, you're guaranteed at least every year there's a review of salary in terms of how much you're going to be paid and all of that. Every now and then we are inundated with conditions of service and all of those things. So there was a recent survey, not so recent, right? It was just a random poll on Twitter seeking to appreciate what salaries or how much salaries the average Ghanaian takes. How many people make scratch 8,000 cedis out of the bunch, right? So when we talk affordable housing, that needs to be defined a bit more so we can appreciate and understand who this targets and how the ordinary Ghanaian, we will advocate for the poorest of the poor, but there's an average as well, from the person who takes the least to the person who takes the highest in the public service or even in private service as well. There's an average. Then when that mean, the mathematicians will tell you a mean number or an average is struck, you can compare and ask the question, okay, is that something, or is this project we're undertaking within the financial threshold or strength of the average Ghanaian, or this is targeted at persons maybe middle range, higher up bracket, which is affordable for them. But let's not kid ourselves. The Saglemi, when it's done, it's not going to be affordable housing. What the government put in and what it got out, nobody could live there. A private investor is coming in. That person will have to make profit.
Indeed.
You can argue, okay, the government can attempt to police so that the profit is not excessive and all of that. But if you want to do all of the costing, I'm afraid, and let's be very honest, it's not going to be affordable housing. It's yes, it might do a few numbers, but it's not going to be affordable housing, right? And it will bring us back to what we started saying even before we got into the story as to why we waste so much money.
That's right.
Look, the president has gone there today. He went there yesterday. Fantastic. They are going to revive the entire project. Now it's Saglemi City.
That's right.
That part, I don't want to talk about it because we like giving names. East Legon Hills, West Coast
Saglemi City has a nice ring to it.
And all of that. So that one is gentrification. We love it, right? But it does not deny the fact that monies were pumped into this project. Government of Ghana money.
AKA UNI's money.
Yes, the project was never completed. The monies were expended. And today, the president is going back for a private developer. On questions of accountability, nobody has ever answered why that project was not finished and why state funds went into it. And yet, we didn't see the end of it.
I mean, if we were to put together all these different projects that are continuously abandoned by government A, government B, and we actually put those figures together and we actually dissect how that trickles down into you and I's pocket, what a difference those monies can make to our standard of living. Some of the everyday frustrations that you and I go through, I don't think we're able to connect the dots when it comes to the wastage that governments past and present, incur upon us. the roads. This morning, you've traveled a long distance to get into work. The frustration of driving on bumpy roads. It is all linked to your quality of life. So, fellow Ghanaians, when we interrogate the issues, this is not just an exercise of just talking, of just exercising the gums. This is for you and I to really avert our minds to what it is that we know we deserve as a people. What we know we deserve as individuals and, as a citizenry. I don't know whether we're able to connect the dots sufficiently for us to be bothered, and really concerned about some of this. It's another news item. It looks nice. The pictures look nice. But really and truly, what does this mean when you look further and you look deeper?
And you ask the questions.
How many years do you have on this lifetime? Do you not want the years to be sweet, fulfilled, meaningful, stress-free?
You wade through it. And I'm going to tie the Saglemi and all of the questions we're asking in relation to the Koforidia Regional Hospital, which was started in 2020 by the previous administration. Also abandoned. It's been overtaken by weeds. We don't have money. Always, there's a saying I always, I always tell my mom, the one they use for development, we never have it. But the one to spend, there is always enough to spend. We always don't have money, but we'll go and start something new. Look, the 24-hour market, for example, we're building markets in all 256 districts across the country. That's a good initiative, right? Nothing we ever start is bad. The legitimate questions which are asked, will we finish it? Yes, we know District Assembly, Common Fund, there's been specific allocations and all of that. Where haven't we had specific allocations in terms of projects? We've gone for loans for specific projects that we haven't finished up to now, and we are seeking fresh financing for it. Saglemi, didn't we go for money for it? We never always seem to finish. That's why there are so many who doubt when the finance minister and the roads minister says the expressway will finish by December of 2020. People ask, are you sure you are going to do that? Because you never finish anything you start.
Yeah.
Roughly, you see a few projects. No, I'll not say a few. Some projects, right? But if you are to catalog projects started from the smallest of small, from oil revenue, and go to the PIAC website. They were here, was it on Tuesday?
That's
commemorating 15 years of policing how petroleum revenue is used. Go to their website. From the smallest of projects to the largest, started in the bush somewhere. Abandoned. You not use the money to finish that which was started. You go and use it to start something you know you will not finish. And then projects are dotted everywhere.
And then what you see is, as it gets closer to election, you see all kinds of shortcutting happening. A rush to do this, to do that, to show that we're actually working. So if you know that that's what the people need, and that's what the people are actually looking for, and you wait to the last minute, then you see this fever. When it's election time, you see roads being hurriedly patched up and all of that. Clearly, you understand that that's what it's going to take for the people to have confidence in you and vote for you. But during the tenure, there's no rush, there's no passion, there's no energy. Only when you want to come back to the people to seek their vote.
Our politicians are a very lucky bunch, right? I mean, let's be honest.
We take it too easy on them.
No, you can't say it enough. They are very lucky, because from time to time, I'm sure, and you see, the only time it ever comes up for a conversation is during election years, and someone will go and catalog, you've abandoned this, you've abandoned that, you've done this, you've done that. Like, we move on the Nyamebeye and let me fight for my own kind of vibe, right? And so it works.
We haven't connected the dots. there is a very deep disconnect between what the average Ghanaian thinks should be done and what is actually happening. That's why I like to read Article 36 to let you know of the Constitution, to let you know that the people that have been elected or you have elected into power, they are there to serve you. They are there to do your bidding. You are supposed to be comfortable as an average citizen. But I don't know whether we are actively connecting the dots, that all this wastage is going against you, against your well-being, against your safety. Monies that could be used to enhance your life. You know what I'm saying? But that's neither here nor there.
We can get into some other stories because for this, if you begin, you will not finish in terms of projects abandoned and what it should mean. But there's a very troubling story. None of the papers quite have it.
I think because the details might have unfolded later, much later in the day yesterday.
Yes. And that's why perhaps they will not have it. But we have details of it from 3news.com all the way to updates from wherever. And I'll entreat a number of us who can to go on to YouTube and as well as Facebook to catch a sense of what story. It's a Bolgatanga Girls Senior High School. The story of a 14-year-old who allegedly was raped. Was it raped? It was raped, right?
We're
Raped
told
by
sexual assault.
Okay. That's what I'm saying. I'm asking. Sexual assault by 2 security staff. And the decision of the school was to dismiss. And there's an investigative journalist up north who followed the story. Edward Adeti is a former colleague of mine. We worked together when I was at Star FM. He's an investigative journalist. Edward Adeti is the one who followed up on this story and revealed the troubling details. Here's what he shared with the news team, right? Alfredo Cancer, to be specific, as to the details of this story, and then we'll get into what has been reactions from the Ministry of Education. We'll speak to Kofi Asare as well, just briefly as well here on the review segment for you.
Yeah, thank you, Alfred. Well, what I gathered from sources, this 14-year-old student of the Bolgatanga Girls Senior High School was sexually abused for the first time, as far as this case is concerned, in June, the last week of June this year, 2026. And the second one happened within that same last week of June this year. I'm told this sexual abuse happened 4 times, perpetrated by these 2 watchmen of the school. And the first one, according to sources, happened around just at the back of the school's dining hall. I'm told the girl was returning from the regular evening study, which many people know as prep, when one of the watchmen who was on patrol at the time saw the girl go into her dormitory to sleep and approached her, lured her, according to sources, to the back of the dining hall, which was dark at the time, and sexually abused her there. Subsequently, Alfred, the other watchman reportedly abused the girl right inside the security duty post structure, which is located at the main gate of the school. And this happened, I'm told the girl, this happened around the dawn of the day this incident happened. But previously, on the previous night, she had sent her tablets to that watchman to charge the tablets for her. And, students now have tablets at the various senior high schools provided for them by the government. And she is one of the recipients of such devices. So she went to the cubicle the following day to pick up the tablet. And it was during this contact the watchman reportedly sexually abused her. And I'm told that this happened 2 more times, each of these watchmen doing it 1 more time. So bringing the total to 4 occasions where this minor was abused on campus 4 times or was abused. Now, it's also important to establish the fact that this girl in question has autism. Maybe to put it in a very plain way for viewers to understand, some viewers to understand, she's a special needs child or student. So this was what happened. So the mother, when I went to after sources told me about this, I went to the house of the family, which is in Bogatanga, here in the Upper East region. And they told me this actually happened. They confirmed it happened. And they were very livid, very angry because of a term used, not just the term used in the letter the school management had given to the family. And the letter was given to the mother, I'm told, after she was called to the school and informed about what had happened. And I didn't even get to the notice of the school. The girl, I'm told, at a point felt she must report this because this, according to what I heard, should not go on. You know, that was the decision the girl took. So she reported this case to the dean of discipline at the school, who in turn brought this to the notice of the school management. So a committee was set up to investigate these allegations. And according to the administrators, whom I spoke to later, Gifty Ayamba, she said the 2 men appeared before the committee and they admitted to the act. And they were subsequently released to the education, what's the name? The Bogatanga Municipal Education Directorate for punitive action to be taken against them. So then the management also gave a letter to the letter I mentioned earlier to the family, specifically to the mother. And I made the family so angry because the letter, which was signed by the administrators of the school, I think the second paragraph said or still says the girl was found guilty of sexual misconduct. And the parents wouldn't understand why their girl or their child should be described as such, because this one was a minor and this is an autistic child, a child with autism. And why should she be portrayed as somebody who perhaps initiated this act? And of course, when I was interviewing the administrators, I also asked this question because I had read the code of conduct, the GS code of conduct, particularly the portion that relates to this case, that there is nowhere there's any consensual sexual affair between a minor and an adult within the GS space. So why should a girl be described as such? Well, for all she could say was, well, that is what the GS code of conduct says. A child involved in this was guilty of sexual misconduct in this kind of act should be found guilty or was guilty of sexual misconduct. And they, according to the committee will have dismissed the girl, but because of a condition of which the management was aware, they would only place her, or they decide to place her or convert her to a day school, to a day student rather, which the family wasn't happy with, because the mother wants the girl to be in a boarding school.
Is an investigative journalist in the Upper East region, right? Who followed up the story, and we've picked up on it. And following the development, the young girl has been made a day student, and amongst many other things, the parents are not happy. But GS issued a statement in relation to it. It says that as an initial step, the 2 watchmen were arrested and handed over to the police for further investigation. In addition, management has interdicted them with immediate effect. Thorough investigations into the matter are currently ongoing. Based on the outcome of investigations, management will apply the appropriate sanctions in accordance with the GES Code of Conduct and the laws of Ghana. The Education Ministry as well issued a statement. The Deputy Minister, Dr. Clement Appiah, says that they've expressed grave concern over the sexual abuse of a 14-year. That's defilement, really, right? With autism at Bolgatanga Girls Senior High School in the Upper East region by 2 watchmen employed at the school. We condemn in the strongest terms any act of sexual abuse or exploitation of a child under our care. Schools exist to protect and nurture students, and any breach of that trust, particularly by adults entrusted with safeguarding vulnerable children, is unacceptable and will not be tolerated. We wish to state unequivocally that a minor cannot be held responsible for sexual abuse perpetrated against her. And the Honorable Minister for Education has directed the Ghana Education Service to investigate the matter and report immediately, ensure that the victim receives all the necessary medical attention and counseling for her quick recovery. Immediately reinstate the boarding status of the victim. We want to assure the student's family and the general public that the ministry will ensure justice is served in this matter. The Ministry of Education sees the development as an act of indiscipline and reaffirms its commitment to the safety, dignity, and rights of every child in the Ghanaian school system. And so that's the Education Ministry and the statement they issued as well. There are a number of things which stick out, right? Because from Edward's narration, and I'm trying to pull up the GES Code of Conduct this morning as well, to get an appreciation as to what really it is. Okay, so the Code of Conduct for students in the pre-tertiary schools. It shall be a misconduct for any student to be involved in sexual relations with any member of staff. Any such misconduct shall not be waived with the reason that the sexual misconduct took place outside the school compound or with an alleged parental or guardian consent. That's all of it. Is this ambiguous? Because that's where I'm going. Such that the child was taken advantage of,
3FM
and
92.7.
per the investigations which was done, the committee by the school, right, and this is not GES, the committee comes to the conclusion that per the guidelines, this is what it is, and so you've misconducted yourself, and so once it's misconduct, we are deburdenizing you.
Can we pull up the...
Yeah, Fred, kindly pull up the Code of Conduct, right?
No, from the school, because the school's letter...
The school's letter.
Yes, I want to see how they also captured it one more time. So, this is from the Bolgatanga Girls Senior High School. A recommendation on Miss Redacted. Following an investigative report of your ward's conduct, the school has taken the decision to place your ward as a temporal day student with immediate effect. According to the GES Code of Conduct for Students in Pre-Tertiary Institutions, Sections 2.16H, Redacted is guilty of sexual misconduct, hence dismissal. However, from general observation, again Redacted, has a challenge, so the school recommends that she's made a day student for 1 academic year. Refer to the Guidance and Counseling Unit for counseling. Her parents should take her for medical attention and give the school a report. So the school actually cites the Code of Conduct in pre-tertiary institutions. And in that same communique, they say that the student, the girl, is guilty of sexual misconduct, hence dismissal. If you listen to what the investigative journalist had to say, Mawuena, remind me of his name, please.
Edward Adeti.
Edward said, how is it that it's a crime under the age of 14, 16. She's under the age of 16.
Consent
she can't
matters.
give consent.
Yeah.
So to then phrase the letter that she is guilty of sexual misconduct and not state what actions are being taken against these security personnel, and to wait for the Ministry of Education to get in there to then ask that these watchmen be interdicted and then handed over to the police, there are gaps.
Legitimate.
There are gaps. As if to say that she is responsible for what actually happened to her. Added to that, they say, however, from general observation, she has a challenge. We're told that she's got some special needs.
Yeah.
I mean, this doesn't sit right well with me at all. Why is it phrased that way? She's guilty of sexual misconduct. So before the Ministry of Education actually got in there, were they going to leave the security personnel, these two watchmen, to continue to watch over the the girls in the school?
So what Edward tells us is they had been referred to the Municipal Education Directorates, and that was it.
And they were still at post, not handed over to the police for being involved in sexual activity with a minor.
Something they admitted during the investigations by the school.
Come on. Let's be serious. Let's be so serious. And that is the response. That was the appropriate response of the school. But again, they cite that code of conduct. So let's bring up the code of conduct again and connect the two.
Because it's very important. I see it and I'm asking myself, this appears to be a bit ambiguous, because it is suggestive of the fact that the students involved in sexual relations, but being involved in sexual relations, this gives off the assumption that the student wants to engage in or actively consents to engaging in the sexual relations.
And we know that based on their age, that simply cannot be so. And we know the ages of students in the pre-tertiary level can be as low as this
14,
young girl, 14 years old. So this code of conduct, I think, might need to be revisited, because it shall be a misconduct for any student to be involved in sexual relations. What does that mean? If I am sexually assaulted, I've been involved in a sexual act. Is it my fault? Any such misconduct shall not be waived with the reason that the sexual misconduct took place outside the school compound or with an alleged parental or guardian consent.
So by this, anybody who is taken advantage of
would have been said to have been misconducted, or would have said
that's
misconducted
where
themselves.
I'm having a bit of I think it's a gray area that requires a bit more in terms of refinement, right? Because the school admits in their own statement that she has special needs, and so even in those instances, if she were above 16, her consent will even have been questionable, because once the person has special needs and is autistic, I mean, she's autistic, right? That consent would have been questionable.
Indeed.
And under the guidance of the school and all of that. So there are a lot of alarm bells that immediately should go off, which would require a bit more refinement in how the school decided to go about it as well. So yes, there's a genuine concern as to how the school went about it, particularly in this instance, because I say that being careful of the fact that some students above 16 years go to school and go and engage in sexual activities. That happens. And so a regulation like that, the school it's supposed to be training you, right? So a regulation like this exists for those kind of purposes, because, I mean, we've heard stories. I was in school, I had mates who were doing all kinds of things. I'm not going to sit here and pretend. And no, that's why the regulation actually exists. That's because right. Some will go to town and go and be engaged in whatever it is that they want to do. And let's not pretend that doesn't happen. So that's why you realize that it doesn't matter whether it took place outside of the school. Once they catch wind of it, because you can say you are taking an exia to go and buy provisions X, Y, and Z, and then you go and engage in such sexual activities. Those are things that happen. So that aspect, quite rightly to a certain extent, captures it. But the openness with which it says sexual activity,
and especially when they say with member of staff as well, is this code of conduct taking into consideration the power imbalance? If you've got a teacher that is involved in sexual activity with a minor, or like in this instance, you've got security personnel involved in sexual activity with this minor, I don't know whether this blanket code of conduct captures it accurately.
Let's get onto the phone. Kofi Asare is the executive director of the Africa Education Watch. We're thankful that he's joined us on the phone this morning as well for quick reactions to this. Mr. Asare, I appreciate you as always, and I trust that all is well.
Very fine, thank you, and good morning to your audience.
Great. We are seeking to make a bit more sense out of what's played out at the Bolgatanga Girls Senior High School. You've heard the entire story from what has been narrated by the investigative journalists, and you've done your own readings and followings. Generally, what sticks out sorely for you? Because myself and Helen, who are here, are asking questions in relation to, one, the conduct of the school in relation to how they decided to undertake that entire investigation, and also the code of conduct they relied on to arrive at the conclusion they did.
Well, our first point of concern is the safeguarding response of the school. Our information is that the girl was sexually abused more than once over a 2-week period. And our information suggests that the girl may have earlier reported before subsequent assault occurred. And so the question is that if she was further abused in the last week of June and a report was made, who was the report made to? And what happened as a result of the report? Because the first thing that should happen is that in safeguarding, the girl must be protected. And so if she was protected, why did the second one? Okay. So in sum, the first key concern is the safeguarding response of the school. The second, which is related to this, is the time lag in case management. Now, this is a discipline case, a school discipline case, which has implications on inclusion and then, again, safeguarding. Now, an incident occurs in late June, and then another occurs in early July, per our understanding. Why is it that it took the GNS headquarters to interdict the watchmen only yesterday? So that calls for concerns about the entire, case management trajectory. At what point were decisions taken to exclude, or if you like, isolate the perpetrators from the school environment? Is it the case that the girl's isolation was very, very important to the extent that she was, quote unquote, suspended? Sorry, not quote unquote. She was supposed to have been dismissed, but was suspended or debordinized by 20th of July. And so, what had happened to the men when the girl was being isolated from the school? So that is a second point of concern. But the third one is the capacity of the school. I'm talking about the school authorities to implement government-owned policies on sexual harassment, policies on inclusive education, and policy on school, student conduct, including the GNS's own code of conduct for staff. One, government's inclusive education policy, which has been running for over 15 years, leans against mainstreaming children with mild disabilities than isolating them. And so, children with mild autism, according to the policy, are supposed to be mainstreamed than isolated. Because mainstreaming is actually part of the healing process. So we are at a loss that a school of that repute, the headmistress, lack capacity to appreciate the import of government inclusive education policy and believes that isolating a student with mild autism is a solution to a problem. That is, a fundamental flaw in the capacity of our institutions to implement government policy. The second is the sexual harassment policy of the Ghana Education Service. This policy was launched sometime in 2023, and also Edward commissioned an evaluation of the policy's implementation just 2 months ago. The findings we shared with the JES management just last week. One of the findings was that schools lack capacity to implement the sexual harassment policy. Capacity by way of capacity in building systems to enable the reporting of sexual harassment to them, and then also building systems that provide confidence in the students that the school authorities, have the capacity to confidentially and fairly manage issues of sexual harassment where reported to them. There are also capacity issues. People do not even understand what the policy said in our secondary schools. So what happened in Boga girls is a reflection of the finding we made in our review of the GES sexual harassment policy. And so these three concerns struck us most. For the last one, it is only the outcome of these three, which is how a school of this stature, the headmistress, could write a letter and communicate that they have found a 14-year-old girl as a participant in a sexual assault crime. The school has found this girl who is 14, who has no right of consent in anything relating to sex. They've managed to find her as a participant in a sexual assault crime, and on that basis, they have found her or charged her for misconduct and found her guilty of sexual misconduct. How that happens is, it's unfathomable, because it also tells us that those who are managing some of our schools are totally in abeyance with the laws of the land. And again, capacity deficits.
And that for me is where it all starts from us as well, in terms of the fact that it possibly could be suggestive of what is a widespread challenge in terms of an appreciation of what sexual abuse is and enforcement of these codes, using this school as a point in case, and also on the back of the report you conducted on enforcing the code of conduct in terms of sexual abuse, amongst other things.
Indeed, it is a chip of a huge block, a system-wide block. And I'll give you another example. Just a couple of months ago, what we saw happen in Bole Senior High School, when we called on the authorities to discipline the teacher, people were saying that, well, the girl was involved in consensual sex with the teacher because the girl is 18. Or, yeah, that's what people were saying. And so we can't raise any issue of sexual violence. Then we realized how bankrupt we are in terms of system level capacity. Listen, our laws provide that apart from a minor not having the right of consent in a sexual relationship, okay, when the power dynamics puts an adult, in this case an 18-year-old girl, puts her in a power relationship where the person who is engaged, the person who is cajoling her or whatever word you want to use, is engaging her in that particular relationship, is one of a superior power dynamic. It cannot be seen that consent was properly procured or could be properly procured. And so when someone is under the care of another, and that person is an adult, it can never be said that the abuse in this case was an adult and may have consented. No. But Bolly exposed us to that. That way, so far as it's an adult, she can decide to sleep with whoever she wants. And then they are consenting adults. That's how many people in the system saw it. So yes, it's a system-wide issue. It is a sad capacity gap that will require a system-level response, because these are only manifestations of how the gaps are showing up. But the reality is that people really believe that once someone is 18 years and they are in school, a teacher can always have sex with them, so far as they consent, without appreciation of the fact that that consent cannot be properly procured because of the power dynamics or the level of influence that the teacher has over a girl, a student, by virtue of the fact that they are under they have a duty of care towards them, and that they are under their care while they are in school.
Right. How do we begin to change or turn the tide? Because one, we can say that in terms of prosecutions, we've not seen a great deal in that regard. But also, having looked at the working document with which the schools have to deal with, is suggestive of a need for a review of some sort for the language to be clearer, particularly having relied on 2.16H of the GES Code of Conduct to arrive at the conclusion that the 14-year-old was guilty of sexual misconduct, for instance.
92.7.
I think that school discipline, guidance, and counseling, safeguarding, these three things have never been a priority. They've always been accorded peripheral attention by the GES. Investment have not prioritized these areas of the education ecosystem. And so we must be deliberate, not just in fashioning policies, but then in disseminating and promoting ownership and the proper understanding of this policy at the school level where the real action is. Since the sexual harassment policy was announced 3 years ago, only some training was done, for safe school focal persons. Then that's it. There is no reporting framework that enables schools, that requires that schools report monthly or quarterly to the GES on how they are implementing this sexual harassment policy. There is no reporting system. There is no standard reporting system ensuring that there is accountability in that policy implementation at school level. And so we must build systems that ensure that as you have an inclusive education policy to implement in the school, as you have a sexual harassment policy to implement in the school, as you have a student code of conduct to implement in the school, you are reporting on a periodic basis, perhaps quarterly, to the GES headquarters on how you are implementing that policy and the challenges you are facing. This must be consistent. Okay, it shouldn't be based on an alarm or a scandal. Then we talk about it, so that at the system level, GES will be able to know which areas within the implementation value chain to strengthen, and then which areas require technical assistance. If it's about case management deficits, then they know how to do what they know. But merely appointing deans of discipline, putting together internal committees and all that, and not giving them necessary technical assistance to support and continuous monitoring and all that, will not build system capacity. The second thing is that we have our school inspectors going to the school to inspect the school. From NASIA to the GES's own CISOs, school inspector support officers. Now, when they go to our schools, what premium do they give to inspection of the school's implementation of inclusive education? How are you managing your special students, special needs students? How are you implementing your sexual harassment policy? How are you implementing your safeguarding policies, your schools policies? Those are not of prime concern to them. It's always about teaching and learning. So we must also mainstream these indicators into the the evaluation, or if you like, the monitoring framework of CISOs and then NASIA, such that it becomes useful to us. Third, we must be mindful about the kind of people we employ to teach in our schools or work in our schools. Let me say work in our schools. Today, in 2026, many countries have introduced criminal background checks prior to being recruited into their education services. Nigeria just started theirs, I think, last year. Ghana is still running a system where once you are qualified, you pass your interview, you get your letter, you enter the genius. There's no background check. Perhaps if we were doing criminal background check before recruiting staff, you would have realized that, or you could have, identified some background information about one or two people that make them unfit. Even for us at Edwards, whenever we are conducting certain levels of research, and we have to go to the schools, we actually go to the CID headquarters to obtain the criminal clearance, the police clearance. We're not saying clearance. They do a criminal background checks, take our fingerprints, run it through their system before we are given a letter by the CID headquarters to enable us to go to schools and conduct our research. But the people who are working in the school environment are just taking the en masse, no background check. So we must institute some of these measures, at least that makes sure that we don't, as much as practicable, we don't allow people who shouldn't enter our school environment, especially to go and protect our children, to go there and actually harm them. These are some, short-term to medium-term interventions that we can deploy to strengthen systems responsiveness to the safeguarding deficits that we are discussing.
Mr. Asare, appreciate you and the thoughts that you always bring to important education matters.
Pleasure.
That's Kofi Asare. He's the Executive Director of the Africa Education Watch, speaking to us this morning. Helen, quick thoughts on what he says. And for me, what sticks out is the fact that, look, GS is just interested in the teaching and learning. All other things, really, it's not central, it's not primary. And so, and it's actually very true. I've seen allegedly a teacher who sexually abused some gentleman in a school. He was transferred to another school.
Simply transferred.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
So he is quite spot on with the fact that the over concentration is just on the teaching and learning, and all other matters
2.7.
not of great concern to anybody again.
I think Kofi hit the nail on the head on a number of these issues. For me, very importantly, was when he talked about the power dynamics. So even in instances where we think that these students, especially the girls, are of age, we have to avert our minds to the issue of power dynamics and the level of influence that teachers and other persons in places of authority have over these students. But I know this story is still unfolding, and what ultimately we want to see is what repercussions these two security personnel will face, because ultimately this is also a crime.
Certainly. It is a crime. We've done exactly 10 to the top of the hour. I'm going to read a few messages in relation to a number of the things we've discussed on the review segment. Sefiamo sends a message in relation to our conversation as to abandoned projects and says that, Mawuena, for me, I honestly think that to stop the problem of abandoned and unfinished projects, we need a national development policy that will bind every government to continue with projects of national interest before starting new ones. Unfortunately, some people are always in a hurry to start new projects, partly because of the perceived 10% that seems to have become, it's not perceived though, it is actual. Perceived, but it is actual to a great extent.
What is this, kickback?
Yes. If you say perceived, it's a reality. It's a reality that It's more like what we would call an open secret, right?
Right.
So people can speak to it and all of that. While existing projects are left unfinished. Good morning to the good constituent of Who West as well, he adds. I'm just going to do this one on Facebook. Says the machine's freezing. That's very interesting. There's an additional message on our WhatsApp console as well in relation to this Saglem. It says, good morning, Mawuena and my sweet Helen. I think it is refreshing to hear from JDM that Saglemi housing will soon be completed. Ampofo Jones at the boy inside La. Sends that one in. Ureku is here. He'll do spots for us. I'm just going to check on Facebook quickly in relation to the messages as well as to what you've been sharing with us in relation to the conversations we've been having. Neron Dibuanegas is on Facebook. He sends a good morning to all of us. Engineer Shamaba as well leaves a message in relation to jobs for the boys and the fact that they are still home without having gotten a job. That will be it for the news review segment, right? There's still a truckload more of what we have for you here on the show, the 3FM Sunrise. Ampofo will do sports for us, after which we'll return with a bit more for you here on the 3FM Sunrise.
Hello, good morning, and welcome to the sports segment here on Sunrise on ZFM 92.7. My name is Oreku Ampofo. We do start off from the 32nd Ghana Football Association Ordinary Congress, which took place in Pram on Thursday. A number of keynotes were highlighted at the event, including headline sponsors for the Women's Premier League, as well as the construction of 10 mini stadia in the 6 new regions in the country by President John Mahama. My colleague Billy Shen was in attendance and filed this report.
The 32nd GFA Congress just concluded a few moments ago, and here are 5 key takeaways from the Congress that happened at the Ghana Soccer Center of Excellence in Pram. The first part has to do with what the sports minister actually mentioned. Now, sports minister, that is Kofi Adams, mentioned that the president has approved an increase of stadiums that he intends to build from 6 to 10. And so he expects that 10 new stadiums will be built in the next few years to support Ghana football and other sports. Now, the second thing is about the Ghana Premier League. Last season, each team earned 1 million Ghana cedis before the start of the season, and GFA President Codjoe revealed that they're going to earn again 1 million Ghana cedis each before the start of the new season. Now, the third point is about the increase in prize money when it comes to the winners of the Ghana Premier League. Akato Kreku mentioned that money has increased from the 2 million from last season to 3 million Ghana cedis. So the winner of the 2026-27 Premier League season will earn 3 million Ghana cedis. The fourth bit is about sponsorship in regards to other leagues in Ghana football. Now, in the Women's Premier League, they have Goldfields Ghana as their headline sponsor for the next 2 years. And then also they would have KFC as their male sponsor, whilst the Division 1 League would have UMB as their headline sponsor for the next 3 seasons. So a very big one for the Division 1 League and the Women's Premier League. And the last one relates to Benjamin Asare. Now, he is going to receive a brand new car from a JAC Motors, which is worth $38,000. And that's because he has been adjudged the best domestic-based player to feature for the Black Stars in the past year. And so a very good one for Benjamin Asare as well. And remember that at the Ghana Premier League season, the new season will start in early September, and other competitions will start in the following weeks. And we'll see how the competitions do build up in the next few weeks, months, and into 2027.
So that was my colleague Bill Ishan, who was at the GFA Congress, which took place in Pram, and a lot of dignitaries and football stakeholders were at the event, including Sports Minister, that's Honorable Kofi Idi Adams, who urged that the stakeholders and handlers of Ghana football should pay critical attention to the local league. He stressed that despite the excellent performances of Ghanaian players in the diaspora, there remains a greater need to fix the fundamentals at the grassroots.
Ghana football, therefore, needs to rebuild its foundation through a clear pathway of participation, identification, development, progression, elite transition, and professionalism. Every stage must have standards, data, and qualified people, and, of course, key amongst it, accountability. The strength of our domestic football system will ultimately reflect in the strength of our national teams. Yes, we should celebrate every Ghanaian excelling abroad, but we must never allow foreign-based talent to become an excuse for a weak domestic ecosystem. A strong league must produce players, coaches, referees, administrators, football intelligence, commercial value, and excitement.
That was Minister for Sports and Recreation Kofi Adams speaking at the GFA Ordinary Congress, which took place on Thursday. We still stay at Congress because CEO of Ibiani Gold Stars, Akwesi Edu, says the club is looking to sign Kwame Opoku ahead of the new season. Opoku played for Asante Kotoko in the 2025 season, but has been told that he isn't part of new head coach Eric Tinkler's plans for the new season.
Oh yes, we did our research and we realized that in our second season, we saw some positives around Abednego, in whom at that time, and I should say it was written off when he came, and with his measure with the young talent we had, he was able to harness about 17 goals to become the goal king. Exactly what we are planning to see from Kwame Opoku. So in case we get him, we just need to put him outfield and get him the balls in the box. You give goals. That's our plan.
Well, let's do some more here on the sports segment here on Sunrise, and we'll be heading into women's football now because the Black Queens will begin their quest to return to the FIFA Women's World Cup with a crucial opening clash against Ecuador in the 2027 Women's World Cup playoff tournament. The 16 playoff tournament is scheduled to take place from November 24 to December 5, with the participating nations battling for just 2 places in the final phase of the qualification process. Ghana's opening fixture against Ecuador will be followed by a second group game against Uzbekistan before they conclude their group phase against Papua New Guinea. Reflecting on the draw, CEO of Hazakas Ladies Evelyn Ntia Asare says that the team has what it takes to ensure that they qualify for the World Cup for the very first time in 20 years.
We had a team before we went for the tournament, and I can say that now when you talk about Black Queens, there have been so many changes as far as training tour and other stuff are concerned. We played Malawi, we beat them 4-0, but they beat us 1-0 to qualify, 2-1 to qualify to the semi-finals. And this is the first time that Black Queens wanted to qualify to the World Cup, and we were not able. This is the first time because we have previously, on 3 occasions, anytime there is a World Cup, you see us qualifying to the World Cup. But this time, we are not going through the normal routine or the normal lane to qualify. I can tell you for a fact that after seeing the fixtures, I strongly believe that we'll be able to go to the World Cup 2027, even though it is not easy because it's now bringing another financial burden to the nation and to the team. They should have qualified for the first time in order to be able. In fact, beginning of this tournament, my thinking was that we were going to lift this trophy for the first time, but it didn't materialize. We are still in contest, and we know that we'll be able to qualify to Brazil 2027.
And so that was CEO of Hazakas Ladies, Evelyn Ntia Asare. But a reminder that for more than 2 decades, Goldfields Ghana has proudly supported Ghana football, standing behind the Black Stars and now the Black Queens, the Black Challenge, and the Women's Premier League. As Ghana's national teams continue to inspire the nation and pursue excellence, Goldfields remains proud to support the dreams, aspirations, and then the future of Ghana football. Empowering through football, Goldfields create value beyond mining. And so that's the latest when it comes to a women's football. However, before we move to some youth football here on the sports segment on Sunrise, let's go for this quick breather.
3FM 92.7.
As football takes center stage around the world, Goldfields proudly continues its more than 2 decades of support for Ghana football, backing our national teams and helping grow the game. Goldfields, creating enduring value beyond mining.
Welcome back. It's still live here on Sunrise on TFM 92.7. Let's do some more here because Black Starlets head coach Prosper Nate Ogum has denied the need for more skilled coaches in youth football when it comes to Ghana. Ogum, who led Ghana at the 2026 Under-17 AFCON, says it's important to appoint skilled coaches at grassroots level to harness the talent of young players.
Is with how quick they move out of the country. You know, the moment they play and then the videos are sent out, the moment they are seen in youth tournaments, U15, U17, the moment they are seen, they quickly come for them. And because of that, they don't stay long in the system. But then irrespective of that, we don't have to give up. We still need to look for them and then nurture them. Because you and I will talk clearly, and it's a fact, it's an open fact that when they go out there, their level of performance increases significantly because of the structure over there, because of the sequences over there, they are able to develop very well.
And so that was Prosper Nate Ogum. Let's now head to England because the Premier League returns this weekend, starting with tonight when reigning champions Arsenal host Coventry City and the opponent for the 2026-2027 season. Now ahead of the tie, head coach of Coventry, Frank Lampard, says that his side want to play for maximum points against the Gunners.
I think it was when the fixture got announced that we're playing, and like a little reel come off my Instagram, like a little collage thing, and it was a few little ding-dongs that I sort of had forgotten about. I think I left a bit on him in one of those ones. Oh, but he's got that natural competitive force that I think we all had. I remember that as a player, albeit it feels quite a few years ago now, but I always remember he was a very talented player with a bit of an edge to him in a good way. He was a very technical player as well. You always feel like he's a man of big detail, so you know you're coming up against a team that's going to give you tactical issues. And also he's very intense on the sideline, which I respect. We all have our own ways of doing it. I've had my moments too, and I think when you're in the zone, you're in the zone, and I respect that. So always know you've got a tough battle because he's a very serious operator, hence he's a Premier League winner now.
Meanwhile, Arsenal's head coach Mikel Arteta says that his side are hungry to chalk more success in the upcoming campaign.
I feel good, different, hopefully better, more excited than ever. Hungrier than ever, and I cannot wait to start the Premier League at home in front of our supporters and have a great performance and win the match.
On the blue side of London, Chelsea head coach Xabi Alonso has hailed midfielder Enzo Fernandez, describing him as a top player. Alonso says that Enzo is training well and is raring to go ahead of the new season.
Enzo is Chelsea player. He's a top player. He's training really well since he started 10 days ago with the team, very integrated, and we are happy with him, and he's getting ready for Monday. He's training really well, and I see him really with good attitude, and that's what we want, that everyone is trying his best and to prepare for the kickoff of the Premier League.
Enzo Fernandez remains a Chelsea player despite the number of reports linking him away from a move from Stamford Bridge this summer transfer window. However, with a couple of weeks left to the end of the window, there will definitely be movement and transfers, which you can get updates of at 3 Sports GH on our social media handles. Now, before we go, Manchester United captain Bruno Fernandes says he takes delight in seeing attackers finish off chances. Fernandes provided 21 assists in the 2025-2026 Premier League season.
What I want is my strikers to score goals. I don't think it's about my assists. I think it's more about the players scoring the goals, because if you look at my game, it hasn't changed. I know players, people want to make it look that has changed a little bit, but my chances created, or whatever people want to call it, was always high. It was always one of the highest in the league. So the difference was that my teammates were on point scoring goals, because that's what make a player have an assist. But I think there's nothing more important than a player scoring a goal.
Is that really what it is in your mind? You're like, I could have had 21 every season.
Oh, probably more, but more than happy to have my players scoring goals. And what I want is my strikers to score goals. And obviously, if I have the chance to make that for them to happening more often, I'll be very happy with it. Not because I would get the assist, but because they will get more goals.
9 goals.
And so that was Bruno Fernandes bringing an end to the sports segment here on Sunrise. My name is Oreku Ampofo, and Sunrise continues right after this.
Sunrise on 3FM, the best in the morning. Sunrise on 3FM, the best in the morning.
is in darkness. This is not the first time that I have been here. I remember that in 2024 and on multiple occasions I came on this stretch to report about the street lights and the darkness all over this place. Driving across or all along the Achimota-Pokwase stretch, like I said, which is about 16 kilometers in the evening, at night, or early morning at dawn, you realize that it is increasingly a death trap. And it is increasingly difficult, and visibility is key or is important to road safety. When you read the Road Traffic Act 2004, Act 683, and also when you read the Road Traffic Regulations 2012 LI 2180, they place emphasis on ensuring that hazards on our roads are minimized. Under Section 4 of the Street Lighting in Ghana Policy Framework 2011, MMDAs again are to own, install and maintain street lights, and that is what establishes the framework for funding through a revised street lighting levy, which is collected as part of electricity bills, like I said. And so citizens would always question, and it is legitimate to question, why we regularly would make payments for these levies for electricity bills. However, we do not get the benefits thereof.
Na endro accident isi wa hanom no e fa ba bi men kan se light enya adwuma ka ho na ma accident nso e happy se street light ni ya adwuma na wo light nya kura ba bia car se si bia no ubehu se car se si wo me madwudwere ni se hanom no on the gas no esane eba mo the speed na afu overhead no aka mo ya runs wo ho no je obi adu ho a obe slow down ansana wa full overhead no.
Sunrise on 3 FM, the best in the morning.
23 past 8 here on the 3FM Sunrise. Glad that you stayed with us, and a big thank you to Ampofo as well for helping us with sports. Sport is brought to you by Goldfields Ghana Limited, supporters of our sporting teams, right? The senior national team, the Black Stars, the women's national team, the Black Queens, and all of the other disciplines. Goldfields is always there to do magic for them in terms of support. I'm just going